Hey there, my name is Cole Adams, and you are watching the best college basketball podcast out there that covers the entire sport of college basketball, brackets, bubbles, and bid stealers. Now, here are your hosts, Sam Fetterman and Jonathan Lidskin.
26 of Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. I am Sam Fetterman. That is Jonathan Lidskin. Jonathan, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing well, Sam. I'm doing well. Cubs are on right now. I'm trying to turn them on my computer, but excited to talk some Kansas here. This is becoming quite the yearly show for us with the Kansas discussion in the preseason.
Jackson Bezdek is joining us. Jackson, welcome back to Brackets, Bubbles, and Bid Stealers. How are you doing?
Thank you. Love it, fellas. Love being here. Ready to talk some Jayhawk basketball. It's about time.
So the last couple seasons for Kansas have not gone as planned. 24th in Ken Palm last year, a 7 seed, lowest NCAA tournament seed of Bill Self's career, lowest NCAA tournament seed since 2000, and out in the first round with a loss to Arkansas. 13 losses make that 24 losses over the last 2 years. Kansas used to go 5 years, 6 years, 7 years without losing 24 games. And that was pretty recent. Here we are. Okay, I don't know about 7 years. That would be pretty crazy. But they did lose like 2010, 11, 12, 13. They lost 3, 3, 7, and 6.
Mm-hmm.
Then they lost 3, 9, 6, 8. So like 3 years, 24 losses, 23 losses. And that was right before this stretch. That includes a national championship. But here we are, 24 losses in 2 years. And that's also 3 straight years of Kansas getting worse in from their preseason rankings. Last year, 2-27, then 7-24. But I like this team. I like this Kansas team. I think they're going to be better than the last 2 years. And that all starts with Darren Peterson, who Bill Self called yesterday on whatever the John Rothstein podcast is called, that Darren Peterson is the best freshman he's ever had at Kansas. Do you guys agree with this?
I believe it in theory. Like, he's had some pretty good ones. Obviously, Self is known more for developing the 3-4 year players into what they've become. Guys like Frank Mason, Wayne Selden, Devontae Graham, like those types of players. Abaji, obviously.
Christian Brown.
Yeah, he has had
Marcus Garrett.
He has had freshmen that have. Yeah, I mean the list goes on and on. He has had freshmen though that were like very good players. Obviously, that it's not really the way he operates typically, but I think when you have a chance to get your hands on a player like Darren Peterson, you have to take that chance, especially with the Adidas connection with him. He was basically down to like all Adidas programs. Obviously, he goes to one of the flagship Adidas programs, and he's really as complete of a point guard, combo guard, whatever you want to call him, that it gets.
Yeah, I mean, if you just want to look at the list of Kansas freshmen Self's had, I think it starts with Wiggins, right? That was great. He was about 17 a game, electric. You go down to Josh Jackson, similar numbers, a little less scoring, but like Bill said, he had Devontae and Frank right next to him that whole year.
Yep.
That was probably pretty easy to fit in there. Embiid was hurt a lot. He wants to get thrown into that conversation, but the productivity at Kansas specifically just wasn't there for JoJo. So Grady Dick, pretty good year a couple seasons ago, but I think he might be right. I think Bill is notorious for saying guys that are just now arriving to the program are just great and the best thing he's ever seen. I mean, what did he say? Bobby Pettiford was supposed to be the next great Kansas point guard, right? That didn't
East Carolina legend
work out, right? So you got to take it with a grain of salt. But when you go and look at the list, man, like Peterson is just another level. I mean, Wiggins was a Maple Jordan, that was a phenomenon. But Peterson, I don't know, he's not as raw as Wiggins was, not even close. He's going to be a top 3 pick in the draft. You can pencil that in now. I think it's just the multitude of ways he can score and just get buckets on offense is something Kansas hasn't had since Devontae Graham. So I think he might be right on that.
I think it's just like when it comes to Darren Peterson, obviously superstar talent, can get to the rim with those shoulder down, elbow extended, foul line extended drives, top of the key. off-ball screens. Just feels like he's the type of guy that's going to put his shoulder down and get to the basket, or put his shoulder down and break it off for a mid-range jump shot. 86th percentile in pick and roll ball handling, 86th percentile in transitions, 91st percentile in isolation. Just any way that you know that a guy can score, he can score. Best scorer that I think Kansas has had in probably since Frank Mason. And he's doing all that at 6'5". There's a reason he's going to be an NBA star for years to come. The playmaking is not amazing. He did lead prolific in assists last year, but I don't think he's this tremendous playmaker. I think that there's enough to work with there, though. And I think that his scoring will create opportunities. And I think Self's going to kind of drill into him the types of situations where he's going to need to pass the ball out. He's going to run into different defenses that he's never seen before. But this is a guy that can shoot the outside shot at a really high level, 36% on volume last year at prolific. Gets to the rim, as I mentioned, at 68% clip. I think Darren Peterson, at that size, as a guy who can just move guys at 6'5", 190, beat guys with speed, beat guys with a little bit of that elbow down power. One of my favorite freshmen in the country, without a doubt.
Yeah, totally. He's going to be a stud. And, Bill said it, he's going to have to be the guy. You look at Kansas's roster, we're going to get into it, but I think all three of us really like some of the pieces that are in that roster, but there's not a ton of, this guy's going to average 12, 15 a game in the Big 12. Peterson's going to have, close to 20 points a game just for Kansas to compete in the conference, which is looking like it's going to be pretty good once again. So not only do we think he's going to be the guy, he has to be the guy. And I think going in with that mentality and understanding the type of guy he is, the type of player he is, I think he's going to thrive under that.
Yeah, Sam, you kind of hinted at it, and kind of explained it a little bit. But I think with the amount of gravity that Darren Peterson pulls towards him becoming and evolving to being a better playmaker is more of a it's going to happen. Versus, it might happen. He's just too good to not eventually get to that point. And if you watch him play, despite the fact that he's not like this outstanding playmaker from the point guard spot, his basketball IQ is really, really high. He's really good at picking his spots. He almost never makes bad decisions. Like, it's really hard to watch him and watch Cam Boozer and think that this guy had a bad game. Like, it just doesn't happen with those guys.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. So what is it going to take for him to not have a bad game at the college level?
It's a good question. Obviously we talked about the scoring. He certainly has the tools to be a really good defender at the college level too. Not one of the, not DeJuan Harris level, but certainly a plus one. I think for him, having his bad games depends in part on the rest of this roster. How good's their floor spacing? How much separation can he create? Are guys drawn to him because you can help off of other guys on this team? And I think that's probably more of the question that you have with Kansas.
I totally agree. Liddy hits it on the head. Like, he's gonna have a 4 for 15. A 7 for 19 type of games. He's going to have those. He had those at prolific. It's going to happen. I don't think that's what's going to dictate being a bad game for him, though, because regardless of how he's shooting, Kansas is going to need him to shoot those types of shots, that volume of shots every single night. And, I think you hit it. If it's 11 points on rough shooting, but he only comes out of it with 1 assist, too, has about 5 turnovers, that's probably the floor. Like, that's the bad game for him. But it's hard to imagine somebody with his caliber only finishing with 11 and the amount of shots he's going to have, and a rim runner like Flory Badunga, who's going to be able to get out and transition. It's hard to imagine those numbers ever looking that low, but that's what it would be.
And I do want to talk about Flory Badunga because this is one of my favorite players returning to college basketball. In my eyes, arguably the best defensive big man in the Big 12 coming into this season. Maybe the best. I don't know. Okay, no, he's not, because JoJo Tugler is in the conference. But probably number 2 or number 3, depending on what you think of Bamboy, and Toppin, and the certain groups of big men across the country, across that league. But he's up there with the best. And what does a jump for Baidunga look offensively like this year, Jackson?
Offensively, I think he's going to be in double figures. In games he played 20 minutes or more last year, he was 12-9. And that was kind of the thing with, at least from a fan perspective, you're like, Bill, he's playing Flory 12 minutes a game. And then KJ goes down. So Flory's minutes go way up. And he crushed it. He was unbelievable. He had 19 against Tech or Arizona, I believe, towards the end of the season. And then KJ comes back, which is great. And then Flory's minutes go back down to about 14. So when he was playing big minutes, he was producing offensively. It's going to be a lot of lobs from Peterson. There's not going to be a ton of Hunter Dickinson post up, back to the basket type stuff. But I think the staff's ready for a change on that and get away from that. I know the fans are ready to get away from that, get a nice fresh breath of, fresh air into this program. He's going to catch lobs. He's going to score in transition, and he's going to block a ton of shots. And it's going to be really awesome. It's going to be more like a way more athletic version of like a Jeff Withey. That's kind of how I see his season going. Get 10, 12 a game, 8 to 10 rebounds a game, throw in a block or two. That's what it's going to look like. It's going to be lobs. It's going to be runouts. He's not a back to the basket guy, but I don't think you want a back to the basket guy when you've got Peterson out there being able to do everything that he can do.
Jonathan on Baidunga?
I think that Flory being the main front court piece for this team is going to change their offense. Obviously, Dickinson was a good offensive player, but I don't know if he was good for what they needed to be a good offense last year. Like instead of using a KJ in the short roll, and I loved KJ. When he caught the ball in the short roll, there was a limited amount of things that he could do with the ball. It was the push shot, which he was very good at, or you were moving it. He wasn't catching it and attacking the rim and going up and scoring over anyone. I think with Flory, he's probably a better ball handler than KJ was. So when he catches in the short roll, not only is he going to have more room to operate because you really don't have another like non-shooting big on the floor, but he can put it on the ground better than KJ can. And he has a really strong left hand, obviously, so he can get to that side of the basket and score at the rim.
So that duo of Peterson and Baidunga, probably this team's two top players. Peterson as the offensive engine, Baidunga as the defensive engine. Let's talk about the wings that I think fit really, really well around Peterson and Jaden Dawson and Melvin Council. I want to start by talking about Dawson as a guy that I have been incredibly high on for a while. Can really shoot the ball. One of the best defensive wings in the A-10 last year. He had a really solid year 2 years ago, but then I felt he really broke out last year. Had his best season, was more consistent when he was on the floor because he did deal with injury. And I do think there's a little bit of concern there. Say, hey, what happens if a couple of bodies go down for Kansas like we've seen the past couple of years? But I don't think we can straight up say, it was 2 years ago that he missed time with injury. Last year he was mostly healthy. But he was one of the better wing defenders, was a really good offensive player, 36% from three on 7 attempts a game. Can shoot from all different places on the floor and gets to those places really efficiently. I think he's going to be a really good kick out type guy because Darren Peterson loves to kind of take a couple steps into the inside the arc and then survey his options from 18 feet because Peterson will start at 24, but he'll get to 18 and then he'll get to 12. A lot of his drives come in stages, I feel. And I think Dawson's going to be a really good threat to come off of some down screens and some flare screens when Peterson's at 18 feet. Jonathan, What are your thoughts on Council?
On Council?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, great player. I mean, he's been really good at both college stops so far. That being Bonaventure and Wagner, I believe, right?
Yep.
Sam?
Yes, yep. And the JUCO before that.
Yeah, so he's actually, I think, a better fit than the wings that they had last year. And I know there's been a lot of talk about him being a non-shooter, but I think when you know that you have Peterson and Dawson on the floor with him, it's probably a better fit. You know, you can kind of go out there and be your, defensive stopper, guard the best ball handler or wing on the floor, whatever you really need him to do. And he's a guy that never really seems to run out of gas. He played a ton of minutes last year at Bonaventure and was really good in those minutes. He's also really interesting to me because he played point guard last year for Bonaventure and was
when
good.
Bowen went down, he had to.
He was quite good as a ball handler, like high assist rate, low turnover rate. You know, obviously I already mentioned the defense, but I think he can be a really good connective offensive piece for them, despite the fact that he can't shoot. And I just want to make it clear that last year there was a lot of talk about like Kansas's wings not living up to the expectation. I don't think that like you go look at Jaden Dawson and like, he's supposed to be one of the guys that can knock down shots for you. I don't think Kansas' offense was bad last year because Zeke Mayo like couldn't shoot the ball. I actually thought he shot the ball quite well. I think Kansas' offense was bad last year because their offense was supposed to run through a wing, and
it didn't.
None of those, like AJ Storr was really bad. Rylan Griffin didn't shoot the ball how we thought he was going to shoot it. This offense is going to look different because I think your best player and you're running your offense through a point guard, versus a wing or a center in Dickinson.
You're running it through a lead guard. I would say he's more a lead guard than a point guard.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. But I do think that like Council and Dawson are probably better fits for what Kansas has and what they want to do this year versus
I don't think
what they
I've
wanted
ever
to do
seen
last year.
Melvin Council miss a layup.
What'd you say?
I don't think I've ever seen Melvin Council miss a layup.
Like easy.
The ball just has a magnet on it. The rim has a magnet on it whenever he throws it up around the rim.
I mean, to be a guard.
Okay, just to say, the numbers were 59%. I swear it's got to be 65.
Way higher.
Like I promise you, this guy made some of the most insane contested layups you've ever seen last year.
To be a guard at 6'5" and still average 15 a game and not be a shooter, like that tells you everything you need to know. That guy's going to get to the rim. He was 15, 5, and 4. Like to your point, Jonathan. Like
he had like a steal and a half, 2 steals.
Yeah, he led the A-10 in steals. Like both of these two guys are awesome defensively, which makes me happy. Because look,
Also,
Peterson, you can guard the third best backcourt guy on this team because these two guys are going to take the 1 and 2. Dawson's going to hit shots. He's going to do that. Council's going to guard, and he can also relieve Peterson some ball handling pressure. Right? He showed he could do that last year.
Yeah,
you guys talked about
I would say I don't think Council's a great ball handler. Just
for 5 possessions, he can be fine.
I know the numbers are like not bad, 23% assist rate, 12% turnover rate, but like the eye test doesn't support him a ton. He's much more of a straight line drives guy. Doesn't really have a bag, but he might be the fastest dude in transition in the Big 12 this year. And I think
also like I'm not gonna like entirely rule out him developing a better jump shot either,
right? Yeah.
Because like he did it with myself, did it with McCullough. Like with less attention on him and better, a good development staff. I'm not ruling that out.
Trey White, Cole Rosario, Bryson Tiller, a couple other guys in the mix here, as kind of the 3-4 grouping for this team. I don't really have many thoughts on them. Trey White, probably a solid glue piece.
Yep.
Anyone have thoughts on the freshman class?
I think people are forgetting about Bryson Tiller. Cole's kind of, his stock is a little hotter right now.
Yeah.
I would say he's going, his workout videos have been nuts. Freak athlete. He's going to shoot the ball at a very high rate. Tiller came to Kansas in January, right? Get a semester early. He was hurt like the whole time. He had a leg cast on. I can't quite remember what the injury was, but so he's been around the program for 8 months now and has just kind of been soaking it in. Absolute beast. I mean, he is a power forward. There's not a ton of guys anymore that you can dub like that is a power forward because the game is just evolving a little bit, but he's absolutely a power forward. He is a mid-range threat at the highest level, but he's also a little bit of a floor spacer, like you said, for Peterson. Like that was Kansas's problem last year. KJ Adams could not space the floor. You can put him out there in the corner, but his defender is going to sit directly in the middle of the paint and not even think about it twice. And when you've got Dickinson, who is, yes, skilled, but very, very slow, not mobile, he's just kind of plopped down there on the block. So there's 3 guys all the time in the paint. You're not going to be able to do that when Rosario's in there, when Bryson Tiller is in there. And Rosario more of a wing, but Trey White, not necessarily a shooter, but a better ball handler and athlete off the dribble than KJ Adams was. KJ Adams, freak athlete, but looks a little funny when he's dribbling, right? Not super fluid whatsoever. Trey White.
Adams did one thing offensively, and it was that 14-foot push shot that you might have been the best in the country at.
He did throw down some like crazy lobs.
That's for sure.
And I'm like the biggest KJ Adams fan out there, so that's not.
He's still around the program. He's sticking around for another year. He's on the staff.
I think what was so fun, not to get completely sidetracked here, but like what was so funny about KJ is like whenever he did something positive offensively, it seemed like it was like a huge momentum shifter.
Yeah, because
for Kansas, like
biggest fist pumper in the country.
Quick talk about Paul Mbia as well. Big wingspan guy.
Yep.
A little more size than Baidunga, but probably like similar archetype of just like a defensive body out there. Mainly, kind of gonna feel like freshman Flory, but worse.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. He's not going to get a ton of minutes, but Flory is going to need to get spelled. And you kind of look at the rest of the roster, not a ton of huge size, and he can bring that. He was like 15 and 12 with 3 blocks in his French league this past year. That's pretty good number.
No, he's a beast.
I think if you can get him to be like 15 minutes a game, really good per minute defensive stats, like that's your ideal freshman season for him. He does have a crazy wingspan, so like this front court could be really difficult to score inside against.
I think front court defense is going to be a strength for Kansas this year.
On Rosario, he was a tough scout. I like his tools. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a nice spark plug off the bench for these guys, but he was really tough to scout because his OTE team was just like the Ellis brothers taking every shot.
He got him up for sure.
You could see the tools with Rosario. He really athletic.
Play a lot. I really do. And I think,
come back for more on South Carolina tip-off talk.
Out.
I'm good.
All right, Jonathan. Anything on El Marco or McDowell before we go?
El Marco's gotten a lot of buzz lately. He self-talked about him in that interview. I don't know what to expect from him. Like,
no clue.
If he's,
I have no clue.
I will say the one kind of other nugget I have on this team is Corbin Allen is not going to play.
No.
This is a strictly developmental project.
Yes.
But I watched him play in person. They came to Columbia to play Tolton Catholic, who had Aaron Rowe and Xavier Wilson. When Corbin was at Oak Park, they were the number 1 team in the state when they came to Columbia. I watched him. He's got some impressive physical tools. Not ready as a basketball player to play right away. I think he was committed to like a WCC school out west before changing to Kansas. I saw the one game I saw him. He like got tossed out of the game for like the most blatant like push of a kid I've ever seen. So
we need some dogs in the program.
It was just
crying on Twitter last year. That was our dog.
Certainly long-term project, and then El Marco, nice defensive piece. I would guess he comes off the bench, but
I would hope so.
I don't know. I kind of never question self with this development stuff from guards and wings.
Yeah, I think they're El Marco and Jamari. I doubt Jamari plays a whole lot. All the guys they bring in are those 2 positions, right? That 6'4" to 6'6" kind of combo guard, which is kind of what El Marco is. And, coming off a pretty bad injury, I don't know. Those guys are older, more experienced, not as raw. I mean, El Marco, I think, is still super raw in terms of talent, but that athleticism's always been there. So, defensively, this team's going to be good. This team is going to be good defensively. And you can get enough out of Peterson on the offensive end. And if Dawson's going to hit shots, if Rosario can hit shots, if Tiller can give you a little something, I think you're kind of I don't think you're a perennial powerhouse like back in the day, which is kind of sad to say, but I think your goal is top 3 in the conference. And I think if all those things happen, I think you got a chance to get there.
All right, Jonathan, you want to take us home?
Yeah, if you came to hear about Tyler Self, this is the Kansas episode. If you came to hear about Tyler Self and where he's working, you came to the right place. If you came to hear the KJ Adams push shot, you came to the right place. And if you came to hear about the latest happenings with Caleb Grill, you came to the right place. This has been Season 6, Episode 26 of Brackets Bubble Bid Steelers Tip-Off Talk, Kansas edition. Thanks so much to Jackson for joining us, and we'll see you next time.